Hello, welcome. This is That Millwall Podcast first pub quiz. Welcome aboard. Okay, the rules of the game. Fairly straightforward. You need to click on the link in the description of this video and you will get a link to Google Forms. The answer sheet's on Google Forms, what you need to fill out. Make sure that you put in the correct email address, and once you've completed the quiz, you will get your scores and feedback on how you did. This quiz is set over 3 rounds, should take roughly around 20-25 minutes. It's consisted of a photo round and then 2 rounds of general knowledge based on the 2009-2010 season and the 1979 season. These rounds tie in with our sponsors, which is Michael Calvin's book The Family and also Merv Payne's book called Ordinary Boys. Well, look, let's crack on, and thank you very much for clicking and playing the quiz. Hope you enjoy it. Please, if you do, leave some feedback, and hopefully this will be the first of many Millwall quizzes, especially during lockdown. Thank you.
Question 1. This is Jimmy Carter scoring a header at home against Arsenal. What was the final score? A. 1-1, B. 2-1, C. 1-2, or D. 2-2. Question 2. Who is the Millwall player pictured here? A. Mark Kennedy, B. Jimmy Carter, C. Mark Beard, or D. Andy Roberts. Question 3. Who are the opposition in this photo? A. Crystal Palace, B. Blackpool, C. Burnley, or D. Charlton. Question 4. What's the keeper's name who's in this photo? A. Alex Stepney, B. Brian King, C. Casey Keller, or D. Brian Horn. Question 5. What number did Terry Hurlock wear at Millwall? A. 6, B. 2, C. 5, or D. 4. Question 6. How many games did this player play for Millwall before leaving to join Leyton Orient? A. 361, B. 341, C. 351, or D. 331. Question 7. What year did Millwall wear this kit? A. 2004, B. 2001, C. 2002, or D. 2003. Question 8. What year did Millwall wear this kit? A. 80-81, B. 82-83, C. 84-85, or D. 86-87. Question 9. Mark Crossley joined us on loan in 1998 from which club? A. Stoke City, B. Manchester United, C. Nottingham Forest, or D. Barnsley? Question 10. Name the future Millwall player in the middle of this photo. A. Dave Mitchell, B. Clive Allen, C. Ian Bogie, or D. Jeff Pitcher? Question 11. Danny Dicchio's header booked us our first FA Cup quarter-final in how many years? A. 29, B. 9, C. 19, or D. 15? Question 12. Who is the Millwall player on the ground? A. Tony Witter, B. Mark Bright, C. Stephen Reed, or D. Bobby Bowery? Question 13. Who is this ex-Millwall player? A. Mark Bircham, B. Joe Dolan, C. Paul Moody, or D. Neil Harris? Question 14. Who is this scoring the penalty away at Leeds in 2004? A. David Livermore, B. Peter Sweeney, C. Scott Dobie, or D. Jody Morris? Question 15. Who is this Millwall player with his arms up in this photo? A. Alex Ray, B. John Goodman, C. Tony Dolby, or D. Ian Dawes? Question 16. What season was this kit worn? A. 92-93, B. 93-94, C. 94-95, or D. 96-97? Question 17. Who did David Ford make his full Millwall debut against? A. Oldham, B. Southend, C. Doncaster, or D. Southampton? Question 18. Jed Wallace celebrates the late winner against Leeds in 2018. Who scored the other 3 goals? A. Morrison, Cooper, Gregory, B. O'Brien, Gregory, Elliott, C. Morrison, O'Brien, Gregory, or D. O'Brien, Saville and Elliott? Question 19. What was the final score in this match? A. 1-0, B. 2-0, C. 01 or D 03? Question 20. How many games did this player play for Millwall? A. 52, B. 32, C. 22 or D. 6? Question 21. Which Millwall player was sent off during our clash with Charlton at the Valley in a 4-4 draw? A. Andy Frampton, B. Jimmy Abdu, C. Steve Morrison or D. Alan Dunn? Question 22. Neil Harris scored a stunning hat-trick in our 4-0 drubbing of Bournemouth in the League Cup. Who scored the other goal that night? A. Gary Alexander, B. Chris Hackett, C. Tony Craig or D. Ali Fusini? Question 23. Which Championship side knocked Millwall out of the FA Cup after a replay and penalty shootout defeat? A. Newcastle United, B. Barnsley, C. Scunthorpe or D. Derby County? Question 24. John Marquis made his Millwall debut away against Bristol Rovers as a second-half substitute at the Memorial Stadium. Which fellow youth player made a similar debut in the previous game at home against Brighton? A. Kiernan Hughes Mason, B. Omar Beckles, C. Danny Fitzsimmons or D. Patrick O'Connor? Question 25. Steve Morrison joined the club after agreeing a £130,000 fee. Where did he sign from? A. Stevenage, B. Bromley, C. Grays Athletic, D. Bishop Stortford? Question 26. Steve Morrison and Neil Harris finished on 23 and 18 goals overall in the 2009-10 season. Who finished third on the scoring charts with 7 overall? A. James Henry, B. Sean Batt, C. Paul Robinson or D. Jimmy Abdu? Question 27. Millwall beat 2 teams 5-0 in 2009-10, with the first costing John Barnes his job at Tranmere. What was the second opposing team? A. Swindon Town, B. Stockport County, C. Leyton Orient or D. Brentford? Question 28. Who scored Millwall's last-minute equaliser seconds after Ricky Lambert had put Southampton 1-0 up at the Den? A. Liam Trotter, B. Alan Dunn, C. Neil Harris or D. Steve Morrison? Question 29. Which player made the most outfield appearances in the 2009-10 season? A. Steve Morrison, B. Jimmy Abdu, C. Tony Craig, or D. Paul Robinson? Question 30. Which young Premier League prospect joined on loan from Tottenham for the tail end of the season? A. Harry Kane, B. Ryan Mason, C. Andros Townsend, or D. John Okiba? Question 31. What was the score at the Den when Millwall took on and defeated rivals Charlton on the 13th of March 2010? A. 1-0, B. 3-1, C. 4-0, or D. 5-0? Question 32. Who did Millwall play on the opening day of the 2009-10 season? A. Southampton, B. Leeds United, C. Stockport, D. Southend? Question 33. Who put Millwall in the lead at Upton Park during our 3-1 defeat away to West Ham in the League Cup? A. Gary Alexander, B. Steve Morrison, C. Neil Harris, or D. Paul Robinson? Question 34. What place did Millwall finish in the league standings after 46 games were played in the 2009-10 season? A. 3rd, B. 4th, C. 5th, or D. 6th? Question 35. Who took the Millwall corner at Wembley Stadium, which defender Paul Robinson converted in our 1-0 final triumph? A. Sean Batt, B. Danny Schofield, C. Liam Trotter, or D. Neil Harris?
When I was young and just a boy, I asked my mother, what will it be? Will it be Arsenal? Will it be Spurs? Here's what she says to me.
Question 36. The season before their 1979 FA Youth Cup triumph, Millwall youth team had an experienced foreign coach called Oscar. Where was he from? Was it A. Brazil, B. Argentina, C. Italy, or D. Spain? Question 37. Who replaced Oscar at the start of the 78-79 season? Was it A. Terry Long, B. Bob Pearson, C. Arthur Rowe, or D. David Payne? Question 38. Most of Millwall's FA Youth Cup winning squad were from London or the surrounding areas, but Alan McKenna was from Scotland. Whereabouts? Was it A. Edinburgh, B. Glasgow, C. Aberdeen, or D. Dundee? Question 39. How old was Dave Memmott when he made his first team debut? Was it A. 15, B. 16, C. 17, or D. 18? Question 40. Who did Millwall beat over 2 legs to reach the 1979 FA Youth Cup final? Was it A. Arsenal, B. Chelsea, C. Everton, or D. Manchester City? Question 41. Who were the holders of the FA Youth Cup the season Millwall won it? Was it A. Crystal Palace, B. Manchester City, C. Everton, or D. Arsenal? Question 42. Who was Millwall's captain for the FA Youth Cup final? Was it A. Phil Coleman, B. Chris Dibble, C. Paul Robinson, or D. Paul Roberts? Question 43. One of Millwall's 2 goals in the second leg of the final at the Den was an own goal. Who scored Millwall's goal? Was it A. Kevin O'Callaghan, B. Dean Horrocks, C. Andy Massey, or D. Phil Coleman? Question 44. Millwall changed managers in the season after their FA Youth Cup final triumph. Who took over? A. Roger Cross, B. Terry Long, C. David Payne, or D. Arthur Rowe? Question 45. Goalkeeper Peter Gleeson went on to become the record holder for appearances at which other club? Was it A. Reading, B. Colchester, C. Southend, or D. Northampton? Question 46. 2 of the cup-winning squad left to play in America. Who did they sign for? A. New York Cosmos, B. Tampa Bay Roadies, C. Minnesota Kicks, or D. Portland Timbers? Question 47. One member of the FA Youth Cup winning squad went on to command the record transfer fee for a teenager at that time. Who was it? Was it A. Dave Memmott, B. Phil Coleman, C. Kevin O'Callaghan, or D. Dean Horrocks? Question 48. Following on from question 47, which First Division club did he sign for? Was it A. Everton, B. West Ham, C. Ipswich, or D. Leeds? Question 49. Who did Millwall play in the quarter-final and beat 1-0 in a replay after a 3-3 draw at the Den? Was it A. Nottingham Forest, B. Norwich, C. Sunderland, or D. Manchester City? Question 50. Who was the first team manager at Millwall when they won the FA Youth Cup in 1979? Was it Gordon Jago, B. George Petchey, C. Peter Anderson, or D. Terry Long?